Hello, hello. Good morning, all.
Good morning.
All right.
Good morning.
Hi. So we're gonna start in a couple moments. Let a few more folks fill in, and we'll start our Black History presentation and panel for today. We have a pretty esteemed guest list here, so looking forward to talking to them. My name is Kurby Brown. I am one of the leaders of the New York City chapter of Cyversity. And we are resuming our engagement, monthly engagement webinars. We've had a little bit of a break, so we do apologize for that, but we are back now and we have a great crew of people to talk to and to discuss kind of a pretty important month for most of us. So we're going to start out with just kind of identifying some pioneers in the cybersecurity and technology space as relates to African Americans over the last couple of years, and then we'll get into our pioneers that are currently, who decided to work with us today and share their knowledge and wisdom with us. So the first person we're gonna talk about here or recognize is Mr. Mark Dean, and I will admit I did not know who Mark was prior to the research done for this presentation, but Mark is an IBM fellow, actually the first African American IBM fellow who has patents for the IBM personal computer back in 1981. Pretty impressive inventor, and definitely a forerunner of our activity in the personal computer space and by extension the cybersecurity space. We have Miss Marsha Ray Williams. She's an American educator and researcher, and was the first Black woman to earn a PhD in computer science. And she was a tenured professor at HBCU, Tennessee State University, and continues to advocate for greater minority representation in STEM fields. And Mr. Carroll Robinson was the first Black engineer at NSA, which is pretty impressive. I don't know if, again, I haven't had the opportunity to come across these folks before, but they are pretty impressive. And I think it's something we should all kind of continue to kind of honor those who came before us, who laid the pathway for what we do now. Yeah, that's it for our pioneers. But I do want to kind of introduce our current folks who are doing great things. We have a panel of three security leaders that I think are outstanding, and I can't wait to hear and learn from them about their path and what advice they have for us here. So I'll start from the left on my screen. I have Mrs. Tracey Brand Sanders. She's the CISO at UGI. Tracey, do you want to introduce yourself and a little bit about your background?
Sure. So again, my name is Tracey. I work at UGI Corporation. I am the global CISO. We have 5 businesses underneath of us, and pretty much most people have heard of AmeriGas, which is liquid propane gas. We operate in all 50 states. We also have LPG, liquid propane gas, in 17 European countries. In addition, we have an electric and gas company that predominantly supports Western Pennsylvania. And then we also have Mountaineer Gas, which is in West Virginia. I joined UGI in the height of COVID. I started April of 2020. And we just started our new ways of working this week. I've been in office a couple of times, but this is the first official week. It's a new ways of working, and we have core Tuesdays and Wednesdays to come in. I have a total of 20 staff members on my team that support all of UGI, and we have about 13,000 employees total. And I think I'm supposed to answer the question in regards to how did I get to a CISO?
Yeah.
Is
Sure.
that so? I've always been in technology for the most part, and the company I was at previously, we were moving away from the mainframe going into the distributed environment. And I was asked to lead the group that was responsible for creating infrastructure IDs. So at that time, we were creating LAN IDs, Lotus Notes was the popular email, as well as the remote access. So I headed that group, and then I absorbed the global technology group that was responsible for mainframe security. So that positioned me for when the government had rolled out GLB under President Clinton administration. The company that I worked for was looking to start centralizing security. And under GLB, it applied to financial institutions, and they had to actually develop an information security plan as to how they were going to protect sensitive data. And so I had posted into a manager position that was responsible for a particular business. I did not know that there was someone else who was going up for the same job. And the hiring director at that time had reached out to a director that was a part of the technology group I was in. And he asked, who should I hire? And it was between me and the other person. And she selected me. I did not know that. So at that time, we didn't even talk about sponsors, right? But I had somebody speaking for me and did not know. And as a result of being in that position, the program was about $1 billion revenue program. It supported Fortune 500 companies. And so it was the leading security program within the company, because pretty much if the company wanted that $75 million revenue, they did whatever the company asked them to do. And so the program I led pretty much was the leader within the organization. And I had actually met a CISO for a hospital, and she had asked what I did. And at that time, I wound up becoming a business information security officer. And I had shared with her my responsibilities. And when she heard what I did, she said, "You're a CISO, you just don't have the title." I never thought about being a CISO. When I thought about leaving the organization that I was a part of, I was tapped by the recruiter for this company asking if I would be interested in this CISO position. And that's how I got here. So it was a journey. It was not even called security back then until, around 1998, they start calling it information security, right? Cybersecurity is kind of new. It's still new. But I will say that I enjoy what I do. I enjoy probably collaborating a lot more with the CISO community around the Philadelphia area. But this job is rough, and I think you all know that, right? I'm not even going to tell a story. It's my company don't know. They are in my prayers every day. I have to say that. So I'll pause to allow somebody else to speak.
I like that. Prayers are the new risk management plan, right?
Yes, absolutely.
On a prayer.
So I have tons of questions to follow up on that, but thank you for that intro and background. I'm again going left to right on my screen. I have Mr. Michael Woodson. He's the Director of Security and Privacy at Sonesta, the Sonesta brand.
Sonesta Hotels, right. So we're a hotel, again, so I'll just premise it. We were once in the pond, skipped the lake and went to the ocean. We have grown significantly throughout the pandemic. We're up to 17 brands now, about 350 hotels. We've gone from when I joined the company, we were 1,104 employees. Now we're 10,000 something employees. All right, all within a short span. I've been at Sonesta for 2 years. And so, we're redefining hospitality. When we look at our brands significantly, it's just off the chart. We've expanded into South America and into the Bahamas, Egypt, and on our way to Europe very soon. So it's been an interesting past 2 years as of February 1, 2 years here, and building out. So my role here is I build out the program. Here I am at Sonesta. I'm the former CISO of the MBTA, the Mass Bay Transit Authority in Boston, the major one, just like in New York Transit. And we're the oldest. And so how did I get here? I'm going to predate myself. I'm going to be, for those, us, I'm not going to, throw a number, as she said, about her age. So, but I will tell you, I worked for Ken Olsen, Digital Equipment Corporation, one strategy, one methodology, better than one architecture. I came out of the DEC era, went into law enforcement from there, came through the era of computer forensics, computer crime investigations. Branched out of that, went to back the stock exchange and dealing with Enron, dealing with WorldCom investigation. I was all part of that team. My team was the one when I was at PwC who put the person at WorldCom. We found those emails from 7 years ago to kind of enhance his memory of activities that were going back for backdating stock trading there. So it was interesting back in that era. But I kind of, out of that, I went overseas, and this is where it all began for me to pivot into the role I'm in today. I was asked to teaching a course called Cybercrime and the Terrorist Threat. And this was right around when 9/11 started. I was one of the senior technical advisors sent to Indonesia for the United States government to Indonesia for the Bali, after the Bali bombing. And so I was the senior cybercrime technical advisor there for 3 years. And then when I came home, the journey began again. I was there from 2003 to 2006. But when I came back, as you know, we went through in 2008 a little recession. So a lot going on, global consulting agencies working for, things like Tata and big ones, work for banking. And here I am, and I started up the ladder advising CISOs, then joining to certify CISOs, the first certification I was on that, on the Easy Council, certified CISO. And so that certified CISO course, I'm one of the people who started that certification. I sit on that board even to this date for that exam. And so in those big roles, and then was asked while sitting over in lovely, Windsor, London. You've been there, beautiful place. I was there doing the consultancy, but I was asked to join a conglomerate of Sonesta, Santander. They bought the bank here. And they bought Sovereign Bank, and I joined them as their director of network and cybersecurity. And just everything blossomed from there. Fast forward to today, my specialty is I take programs from nothing to something fast. I've always been the fix-it guy, whether I be at Tata, whether I be at Emphasis, when the companies have a problem, when you, Tracey, have a problem, they call me. Fix it. Find my problem, fix it. So this company here had nothing. They now are solid. MBTA, clank it down, lock it down, fix it. Here's $15 million, fix it. And I've done that. So this is my specialty of being here. How, as an individual, there's been many challenges that we face being Black, all right? There's not a lot of us. And so over the last 3 years, I see it happening, coming together. But I'm looking forward to this conversation, and I hope that gives you a perspective on how I got here and stumbling along the way, tiptoe through the tulips in a variety of ways, from forensics, from a background in technology, I was even a police officer for 12 years, by the way, with the Boston Police Department. That's how I got into forensics, computer forensics investigations. So pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you, Michael. I appreciate it.
So Michael, though, can I say this? So can I call you, not my company? Can I call you to help me fix it?
I can help you. Hey, I'm here. It's about networking. It's about you.
Okay.
It's like you want to run something by me. I'm an open book.
All right.
That's what I tell people. I've had some great mentors before me, even out of DOD. I come out of there, like one of my best mentors is a guy named Mark Morrison, and Mark, and I just, you need that sounding board. Open door for you always. And by the way, we might doze, but we never close. We're in cybersecurity. Remember that. 24/7. All right.
All right.
And next we have Mr. Franklin Donahue, who is actually the VP of Partnerships. Oh,
The research board.
Research Board. I apologize.
Yeah.
I can't read my own handwriting.
That's
The
all right.
VP of the Research Board at Gartner.
Yeah.
And he's also the person to call when you need help. So I'll let him.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you. I just love these conversations, and in our line of work, as Michael was saying, we don't necessarily get an opportunity to see a lot of us all the time. That's what I think the beauty of former ICMCP and now Cyversity. The beauty of this is lifting each other up and helping each other. So my background, let me start with the thing that I have to do almost every other day, is sort of tell you where I've been and how I got here, and then I'll tell you what I do. So I started off my technology journey in high school. I grew up in Houston, Texas, in Fifth Ward. My mother said, "You're not going to high school here. You're going to go across town to this school that's for computers." And I had to take a test, and I had to pass that test, and I did pass that test. And I went to a magnet school for high school for computer technology. It was then called Reagan High School. It's a different high school now. So in high school, I started out, I went to the Marine Corps. I did a number of things in the Marine Corps. I started off as ground support, went into electronics, did a little work with some other units, specialty units that to support them. Came out of the Marine Corps, went to the University of Washington, then I went to Carnegie Mellon University to get a couple of master's degrees there. The important thing for me there was that's where I discovered information security. I met a professor there named David Fisher, who, as odd as that man was, it was probably the most interesting class I took at the time. So he was one of the fathers of DARPA back in the day, and he asked me if I would be interested in applying for his research assistant as a research assistant, and that became my journey. I also worked with the professor Tim Schimmel, who is an advanced security at the Software Engineering Institute at Carnegie Mellon, where I worked with him as a research assistant as well. And those opportunities, if you've ever read Outliers, you have to be prepared for those opportunities. I happened to be in the right place. I happened to be in a conversation in a room where some folks were talking about information security and cybersecurity, and I said, that sounds interesting. And I started working with those folks. I went on to Deloitte and worked at Deloitte and worked with a number of clients. And similar to what Michael was saying, I was a fixer guy, right? I came in, people asked me questions just like they still do today, and said, "Hey, what do we do?" There were some technical things that I did. A lot of strategy, a lot of connecting the dots with a number of things that are complex in security even back then. Went on to become the director of security architecture and design at T-Mobile USA, and worked on building out that very complex security architecture there at a time. This is right after Paris Hilton. I don't know if any of you remember what happened to Paris Hilton, but it really didn't have much to do with security, but it sure did scare the board. And so it brought some folks like myself in and others who came in to build out the security program and change it. I also, at the time, which was interesting, I also inherited fraud management, business risk management, which is another being there in the room opportunity kind of thing. And also I had executive protection and physical security. So I had over 400 and something guards, armed and unarmed, at our locations and at some of our facilities. And we did the protection for facilities and also for some of our board members and also our senior executives. We did their protection with a number of other things that go along with that responsibility. I became the global CISO for Costco Wholesale, and also where I also built out and matured, actually, I'll say matured, the cybersecurity program there, stayed there for a while, really enjoyed that environment. It's a very unique culture, and we can get into, you know, what that means. Tracey sort of brought that up in a different way, but culture means something, and how you navigate and are resilient in that culture, it really does matter. It really does matter. Mm-hmm. We can talk about microaggressions and all of that stuff, but how you show your grit and not just grinding your teeth. I'm not talking about taking it and bearing it. I'm talking about how you meet that is very important as a minority and an African-American specifically. I can only speak from a male African-American perspective, but it can be challenging. Especially when you get into that boardroom or in those executive conversations that are different. They're different. I became the CISO for Mylan Pharmaceuticals, the global pharmaceutical company that had the EpiPen. They were purchased by another company, and no, I won't talk about the whole EpiPen thing there. I was there when all of that price escalation and stuff happened, but it is that global. You know, I've been in global environments before and consulted for a number of global companies. That was my specialty. But that global environment in pharmaceuticals, when you're dealing with a lot of compliance and you're dealing with not just one, you're dealing with multiple agencies, but you're also dealing in a very competitive, highly competitive climate with, you know, rumors of collusion and price fixing. You have to be you really have to be a person who displays being ethical and moral, and those things matter in risk management and cybersecurity in general. You have to be that person in the room and not compromise on that. Then I went on to become the CEO of a cybersecurity software and professional services company called Links Technology Partners. I also sat on the board, sat on several boards. And I was on the board before that, but I also sat on boards, you know, if you've heard of Threat Modeler is a board that I was on, and a number of other ones. But that board experience, and I currently sit on a board of a financial institution as well. Those board experiences exposed me to conversations and an acumen, business acumen, which we can also talk about how important that is as a cybersecurity leader to have that business acumen. Mm-hmm. And you've heard so far, many people have a myriad of and breadth of experience. Started off deep, but now you have to be, from an executive perspective, you have to have those broad conversations where you understand the business. So these experiences have opened me up to those things. So what I do today is people actually pay me. Fortune 500 CIOs and CISOs actually pay me to sit and talk to them and be sort of their advisor, and sometimes their therapist. Because as Tracey was saying, you do have to pray for some of these folks in these companies. And so what we do is I'm their pastor and priest, basically, and I help them think through some of these very complex, cross-functional and deeply technical things that they have to say. How do I talk to my board about generative AI and ChatGPT? And how do I talk to them about this stuff? And how can we think of preemptive ways of having those conversations without them catching me, 5 months later when someone in development has connected it to something that they shouldn't have.
They wouldn't do that. Thank you, Franklin. I wish we had another hour and a half to chat. I have so many questions, but I know we only have 30 minutes left, so I want to get right into it. I think our next topic was really talking about, kind of what's hot, the changes and challenges in cyber. And I think you led us right down that path, Michael. For me, I think there are two hot topics I think you talked about. One current right now, AI, right? Chat GPT. And the other one you mentioned with ethics. And I think, given what happened with Uber back, a couple months ago, that's also a hot topic. So I'm going to open it up and to the group. If you want to talk about either or both of those issues or something different, please throw it out there. But what do you think is hot right now? How's AI impacting cyber specifically? I work my company works in writing integrity, so it's very hot for us. But from a cyber perspective, I feel like every vendor's been saying it for a long time. We have ML, we have AI, but how are you seeing these new developments impact the cyber landscape from either a product or from just a risk management standpoint?
Risk management is going to be an issue.
Yeah.
And you started off when you show privacy. And so depending on where you are in your industry, so let's take education, for example. ChatGPT, I teach at Northeastern University and also at Cambridge College. And for professors, it's challenging. But what we now, when you talk about ethics and integrity, that's going to raise an issue. That's going to cause a problem with that in terms of things of the integrity of what you're writing. And so that's a challenge in itself. But also, it's going to also cause for us to travel an issue of security where ChatGPT, it can actually write the code to do something. That's dangerous and very rapidly. And literally, I want to bake a cake. Here it is. I want to do this. Here it is how you do it. That is just going to be a challenge that it's going to be hard for us. There's another side of the coin where AI is helpful from an analytical perspective and helping us understand and facilitate things that we couldn't in the past in a very rapid in terms of a response. So that there's a negative and a positive to all of it. But overall, the impact on the people aspect of things, I think that it's going to be something that we're going to have to deal with as well. And whether or not people are going to degrade over time because of their dependency on AI and the validity of what AI brings you. Because we become a dependency on it. So for example, like Google was, but we know that Google, you got to validate. AI is just, and people are just thinking it's gospel. So I see that happening. Just in my 2 cents on it, and just a little bit at a time. Turn it over to somebody else or my colleagues.
I think for me, right, I had shared, I have a limited staff that support the entire organization. And so I'm going to have to rely on some automation. I'm not going to be able to survive without automation. So it will help me in that aspect. From an ethics perspective, though, I would want to touch on that, right? So from an ethics standpoint, I think it's important that the CISOs have an opportunity to report sometimes straight to the board and not have to go through some politics, right? Behind the simple fact is, you think about that Uber situation. Did they feel pressed? Did the person really feel pressed that they had to deliver a message that wasn't true? I would say in my current environment, I don't feel like that. My leadership is very open to allow me to speak to the risks within the organization, right? And this is all about risk management. At the end of the day, we are going to assume risk. I just need to be honest and tell you, here are the problems, here are the risks, what are we going to accept versus what are we going to do about it, right? So we could be liable if we choose to go down the path and not be honest. I will say after the Uber incident, I went straight to someone and said, am I insured? Right? Because I want to make sure that I'm protected. I don't want to take any liability. But I think the SEC ruling, if it comes out, it's going to force people really to be honest. If you're not honest today, it's going to force you to be honest, right? That you cannot pretend you have certain controls in place and you have this great program if you don't have it. So if you are to get compromised and now you have to report that material impact, they're going to go back and look at what did you report out around your cybersecurity program, and did you tell the truth? So I think in some ways we will be forced, for those that feel like they're compromised right now, you're going to be forced to be honest. Because if something was to happen, they're going to go back and they're going to investigate to determine what you said and what happened. Do they match up?
So can I ask a follow-up on that? And do you, if you start to feel, I'm not sure what your reporting structure is, you know, some CISOs report to the CIO, some report to the CEO, CTO, what have you. If you start to get that sense that, or if anyone out in the audience gets that sense that they're being pressured to go down that path, is there a, you know, a recommended response, and how should they respond to that if their superiors are trying to fudge the truth a little bit too much for their comfort?
So I currently report to the global CIO. I was in the position in my prior life that there were some things that was going on that I felt somewhat compromised, right? But, you know, that's my soul searching, right? Because this is my life. And in that scenario, what I did, I made sure I had documentation. I then I did not report to a leader, I reported to a vice president of IT. I went to the COO of the company, and I went to HR, and I had my documentation in that case. Now, I do have access to the board. I have access to our CEO. And my company, you know, we do the right thing, right? That's the motto, is to do the right thing. And I don't feel like I'm in a position that I would have to try to compromise, because my leaders are open to hear, right? And then I have risk management, and we have risk registers, and we have documentation to support what I do. But also, I will say there's been times where I have requested a budget and didn't get it. So in those scenarios, what I do is I keep track of, this is what I set out to do, and this did not get approved. So if someone comes to me and say, Tracey, why wasn't this done? I have evidence. Well, I did ask for it and I didn't get the money. But I think that you should always have some course correction. If you can't go to your leader, you have to feel confident enough to be able to go to someone else, because you got to protect yourself. That's I had that situation, and that's how I handled it in the past. I don't think I would have that now.
The Uber situation was a wake-up call for all of us as CISOs. And I mean, it's interesting you bring that up, and you're talking about, yes, you always document anything you do. And, you know, and you always, you know, you want to trust, but you got to verify a lot of things. A lot goes on around you. Some of it's unscrupulous situations. That's why you always got to recalibrate the controls across everything, controls the people, what they're able to do, the technology, the processes, right? How we handle data, things like that. It's a constant recalibrating moment of everything that you do. Now, me even navigating it, and frankly, you said it right. You know, when we talk about business acumen, it's about, at this level, being a Black male, it's being able to handle the grit with a smile. I don't know anybody on this call been in the military, but you gotta suck it up. I'm sorry to use the term, but just suck it up and smile and eat it up and just go through it, because no matter how, you just can't if you let it get to you, you're gonna burn out, all right? I always say, you know, my mother used to say to me, you know, smile a while and give your face a rest. And give, you know, and she just, you know, just smile and you'll way through it and you'll be okay. And I have to laugh about it because, you know, my mom's not with us anymore, but lost it due to COVID. But that's how I get through a lot of things in that boardroom and sitting there with people that I have to deal with in the C-suite. I'm like you, I'm not in it. I report into a CIO, which is, that's even, that relationship is a tough one. If you're not reporting to other than, I wouldn't, my dream job is not to report to a CIO. All right, because every time I see it, it's just been a hot mess.
Yeah.
And so hopefully the changes that are coming out with the Security Exchange Commissions and the ruling, where you must have somebody, a CISO at the, I mean, with a depth of experience on the board, at the board level, that will change the game for that, of the reporting structure of a CISO. Just like Sarbanes-Oxley wanted somebody that can, read financial statements. Now it's a requirement. And by the way, you can't put it under the audit committee. It has to be on a technology and cyber committee. So that's going to be fascinating for this role. I'm welcoming that, and it'll change the game, I believe.
Right.
I-
Talk about.
Yeah, look, I have, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, I was gonna ask you to talk about anything in the AI space, since you're dealing with so many products and vendors, or you're counseling CISOs on ethics.
There's so much to this conversation. It's so deep and rich. There's been hints in this conversation about your personal brand versus what you have to bring to the table, right?
Mm-hmm.
So and your integrity and how you act, and it is acting sometimes, as Michael's alluding to. Your personal brand matters, right? But not at the sacrifice of who you are, your authentic self.
Right.
That there is the hard part. And so figuring out what your I have a mentoring board, right? I have my board of directors for my career and my life, and these are mentors. So they're not just coaches. They're not sponsors within a company. These are folks who know things about me that most people don't know. I sit and I talk to them about family. I talk to them about career. I talk to them about my health. They know things about me. So they see the 360 Franklin. Those people are important in my life, right? So that I can have that grit and presence in the boardrooms when I'm there, or in the executive meetings. Executive presence matters. What you know matters, and who you know matters, and being ready for opportunities. So those things. As far as your career, there's a trend in insurance, and I've had these conversations a lot lately, in insurance companies who are asking for more evidence, or especially around ransomware. Controls around ransomware, and it's becoming a growing industry if you can provide those services of assessment on behalf of insurance companies, because now they're going to not just people who they just don't have people who are good risk analysts. They also have people coming into your companies and your organizations that are asking for proof of access control, very specific technical controls. They're going into cloud environments. They're doing things that they haven't done in the past. I remember a time where when we were applying for insurance, it was a paper form of about paper. It was a form that we filled out online for about 60 questions. And we talked to someone, and that was it. Now you have people with these long drawn out processes with multiple insurers. And what they're doing is, to sort of Tracey's point, is they're looking for proof. It's not just a question anymore. It is prove it. And your integrity, your brand, as Franklin, as Kurby, as Michael, as Tracey, it's on the line.
Yes.
And then also, when you have these events that come up, like, Joe Sullivan, I have my opinions about Joe, what he did, but at Uber, but he made some choices that I don't think I would have made, but I understand why he made them, which is the hard part. And this is a hard position. If any of you are aspiring to be a CISO or a leader in security or risk management, the trade-offs in those conversations, it's the wisdom, I call it the wisdom of Solomon. You really do have to have that wisdom of what do you say in the room? What do you say to your staff? What do you say to peers? And they all have to be consistent, but they aren't all the same conversations, because in the military you have, just like anything else, you have enclaves of information, right? Certain people hear certain things, and that's all they hear. Not everyone needs to have the same information at the equal volume. There's some information that's discussed at the board that's not going to be discussed with your staff. And you have to have that discernment to understand what is the right information. What do people need to have, number one, to do their jobs, number two, so that they feel that they're informed. There's nothing worse than being an individual contributor and you don't feel like you have all of the information you're being, because then people say, oh, I don't believe you. It's like, well, that's all I can tell you, right? In the military, it's easy because that's what we're trained to do. All I get is the information that you gave me, and I'm going to go and follow this order. Not so much in the civilian world.
Right.
So those things are important as far as AI is concerned. And then I'll get off my microphone here. But as far as AI is concerned and all the uses of AI, we've had natural language, generative AI, GAN, all of this stuff, these uses, and machine learning. Look, and I had a conversation with about 34 CISOs. We were on a call, and everyone wanted to talk about AI, and it runs the gamut. On one end, it was, I'm blocking it. I told the board, I told my CEO, I'm blocking it, we're blocking it. There was the middle, we're blocking it until we figure how this is going to work and talk to the business and see how they want to use it. And there were others saying, we're not going to block it. We don't see it as a huge risk. We are going to use it ourselves. And there are security organizations that are using it and they're saving time and they're saving money, right? So you have these people who have different risk profiles. They're all CISOs, and they're all giving different information to their leadership and to their company about how they're going to use AI. My point of view, my professional and personal point of view, is figure out how it's going to be used by the business first. Understand how they're going to use it. You're not going to be able to block it. They're going to use it. It's not going to replace a whole bunch of jobs, except for those people who have jobs that are sort of turnkey, and you can, code is making code now, right? Coding is becoming less of an issue than understanding what comes out of the code and the application of code, how you deal with microservices, how you deal with security being a part of microservice environment. Those are the more complex conversations that people need to have than sort of citizen coding that's going on.
Awesome. I do want to make sure we save some time for questions. So I'm going to finish up with one final question. If you guys can answer, you three can answer it briefly, then we'll open it up for the rest of the audience. We talked about how hard your jobs are, and our jobs as security leaders and as security folks in the industry, whether it be ethics issues, dealing with new technologies like AI, praying for our companies, and being the priest for all those that we're charged with supporting. But we keep doing it. Why? What's the most rewarding? Why do you keep doing what you do? What's the most rewarding aspects of being, that leader? Heavy is the head that wears the crown, but you're still wearing the crown. So can you talk about that pretty briefly?
I'll let the lady go first. I'm a Southern man.
I always ask I always ask myself that question, right? Because it's hard. And when you hear people, they want to be CISOs, well, why?
Yeah.
So I ask myself that question. I mean, in this job, you get to learn so much. You have some of your mundane tasks, but you know what? This job, you get to learn, right? I am a type A, right? I don't want to be bored. I get to learn. I get to collaborate across the company, right? This is one of those jobs that you get to talk to everybody across the company. I don't focus on one specific business unit. There is a community of CISOs that I'm always collaborating with. So although there is a challenge on one side, it's really rewarding on the other side. You get to meet so many people, you get to collaborate, you get to learn. You can't stay in this job and not learn, right? Because you can't stay in a job and not learn. So that's the rewarding side of it. On a quarterly basis, I go out to dinner with the CISO community. And I enjoyed that part of it. And so because I enjoy the collaboration, not just in the community, but throughout the organization, I deal with the other part of it. So that's what I enjoy. And it's okay. You know, I have goals, but I will ask someone, why do they want to become a CISO? Because it's not easy.
I look at it from my perspective. It's and you know, I always say to people on my way to work, there are two things that I do. I always stop at a red light, a green light, and a yellow light. And I think of Mr. Garrett Morgan, right? And when I come out into my garage in my office, I get on the elevator, and I think of Alexander Miles, who invented that. And it motivates me every day that I come in here and says, you know what was yesterday, and driving like a car, it's in the rearview mirror, and focus on where you're going. And I do that every day. But like you, I do get out into the community. I'm committed to the community, the success. But I also have an uncle of mine. He was a dean at MIT. And one of the things he told me was help one, step one. And as you know, there's not a lot of us in this place. And so I want to open the doors to others, and I do that. I do mentoring, but I also go out and, give full transparency, because what I know, you're going to know. Share it quickly. I bring somebody along to me. Okay, yeah, I'm going to this dinner tonight with some CISOs. Why don't you join me? Why don't you join me at Avanta? All right, I take the guy on my team, a minority. I just say, look, come here. Or in my place, why don't you go represent me and do that? Or, I'm sitting up and I got to join this company at a basketball game tonight in the suite. Why don't you join me? Why don't you come and shadow me? But those are the things, like you said, you learn a lot, you meet a lot of people from a different perspective, and you also learn. I also teach, and that's been, part of the equation too, to give back. And also learn from those students. So it's that aspect of it, but seeing the success that you've achieved something, and you're able to have that at the top and be able to contribute, to me, that's just very rewarding. And I continue to just strive to do better every day, with those things in mind.
Franklin?
Yeah, Kurby. I love a challenge. I love it. I love it. My dad was an Army officer. He did a couple of tours in Vietnam, and first in his family go to college. My mother was the same. It's sort of in my blood. So I told my dad I was going into the Marine Corps. He was like, "Why?" So because it's hard. It's hard. It's hard. For some reason, I don't like doing it the hard way, but I like doing things that are difficult. And I like doing things, especially when people tell me I can't, or I get the perception that someone is challenging me, that I can't do something. So I enjoy that. And I saw no one that looked like me when I was at Carnegie Mellon that was in this field. No one. And, I work with Jewish folks. We're great Jewish community. You'd be surprised at Carnegie Mellon, they're all over the place. If any of you live in Pittsburgh, I'll tell you, they're all over the place. Very, David Fisher himself. And I have to take my hat off to them, but I'll say this: opportunity and preparation is not luck. It's what you deserve. It's what you deserve. And so that hard work that goes into, for me, if someone says that, I'm just looking for that person and being a part of that network, as Tracey was saying, that's the community that you need to be a part of. But be prepared. in those conversations. And if an opportunity is about to come your way, and meet your challenges, be in the room, have the hard conversations, be yourself. But I do it because somebody basically kind of told me I couldn't.
Like Michael Jordan, how you made you. Yeah. Anyway, let's anyone. I know we're running late on time, so I do want to make sure if there's any questions out there. Feel free to come off your mic, off mute, or throw it in the chat, and we'll try to get the panel to respond.
So it looks like Michelle has a question. She put it in the chat.
I don't see it. Okay, I don't know how I can't see it. Was it direct to you? Because I don't see it.
Oh, yeah, it was. So sorry. It was direct to me. I didn't realize it was direct to me. Her question is, how do you deal with older African Americans attempting to sabotage you in the workplace?
Ooh.
I'm
That's a good,
gonna try to answer that, and Mike and Franklin jump in. I don't know if I've ever had anybody try to sabotage me, but I will say you always have to be 2-3 steps ahead of people. There are certain behaviors that you will see that will give you that will create some kind of appearance that you may have to check this in other words. If they have certain behaviors and you feel that they are sabotaging you, you just have to say something. We're all adults in this workplace. And, I have no problem sharing with someone. I will be candid, but respectful. I will not tolerate someone disrespecting me. I will not tolerate even people going around me. Respect my position. Right? If you and I disagree, we disagree. But don't try to sabotage me. And I think you have to call a person out. As long as you're clear that the behaviors that they are showing you is actually sabotaging your career. Call them out. But be respectful, but call them out.
Hey, when they go low, you go where?
I go low too.
I know, but you go high.
But I'm just respectful.
But hey, look,
I'm respectful, but I'm gonna go with you.
You know what? I've gone in that situation where I've even said, hey, look, I want to buy you lunch. And in some cases, since they said no, I sent them lunch. Just thinking about you. I want you to have a good day. Right? You have to do a positive to offset the negative. Because if you go in the negative way, they're bringing you down. They want. You want to go high. You want to say, you know what? I'm going to teach you how to be positive because for some reason it's apparent you're miserable in your place. Okay? You're miserable.
Michael, that almost sounds petty, but it sounds good.
You know what? At the end of the day, they're going to respect you because you know what? You know what? I guarantee you keep it. Be consistent.
Yeah.
Because no matter what, you said it. You got to have grit.
Yeah. And I like to expose people like that. And I especially so unfortunately in the United States specifically, we give people who sabotage who tried to sabotage our reputation a pass because we don't like to bring it up. Like Michael said something about Tracey to me. I'm not going to bring it up to Tracey because I don't want to, cause any mess. Well, you know what? I like to bring Michael and Tracey in a room together. And I like to expose that and make it very clear that I'm not going to be, how they say the dog that fetches also carries. Because there's a lot of people that are like that and they love gossip and they love to ruin people's reputation and sabotage them because they don't think that someone's going to bring it up. And I've been on the receiving end of that many times. And I like to just bring folks in the room and say, hey, Michael was telling me, and I might take them to lunch. Michael, now that you said that, I might invite them all to lunch.
You should.
So I don't get into, so let me clarify. I just confront the situation. I don't go by hearsay. So if there's hearsay in it, until I know, I don't even go by hearsay. But if I know you are treating me a certain way and your behaviors demonstrate that,
Yeah.
I'm going to have a conversation with you, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to focus on your behaviors.
Mhm.
I'm not going to take you out to lunch. I will talk about the great things, but I'm not taking you to lunch. We just need to have a conversation.
Now, come on, you got to be selling over a meal. Come on.
No. I don't need to have lunch with
him
you
off
to
guard.
have a respectful conversation about
You
how
have
you
a meal. I'm telling you, you have the meal.
Catch him off guard. Catch him off
We
guard
might
when
have
they're
lunch
relaxed.
afterwards, but I'm not having, right? We just need to clear the air, right? But you just have to let people know there are boundaries,
Yeah.
right?
All right.
I want to respect everyone's time, and I really appreciate Tracey, Michael, and Franklin for joining us, and all of our guests today. Been really insightful. We learned not to mess with Tracey because you don't want none of that. And but honestly, no, thank you. Really, I have quite a few notes on my end from my side. The 3 things I took away from some of your remarks is, in terms of how you got where you are, be a fixer. Be prepared for your opportunity. It's something we hear all the time, but I think it still needs to be said. And the value of sponsorship, and I would think that being prepared for those opportunities kind of maybe generates you some of those sponsors kind of come along and decide to sponsor you because they know you're ready to go. So I don't know if you all have any parting, wisdoms. I know we only have a moment left here, but anything you want to leave the group with, we greatly appreciate it.
No, I think this is a good gathering, and thanks for inventing this and bringing it back. I look forward to acting with everybody. Please feel free also to join a session on Slack. I'm on Slack on the Cyversity Slack space. There's also for mentoring opportunities within Cyversity. You are going on one of the ambassadors. So definitely want all of you to know that we're, at Cyversity, that we're big on this, mentoring you. I left my email in the chat. Please contact me if you want to. Okay?
I just want to say thank you so much. And Willie was the one that reached out to me. I know you all are the New York chapter, and I am
New York Metro.
Oh, you Metro, New York Metro.
He expanded.
So I appreciate you guys extending invite. I really appreciate this. So thank you.
Thank you.
Same here. I'm in Seattle, so.
Gloomy
This has been
Leave
great.
that rain over there. The darkness over there.
Thank you all so much. Very insightful, and we hope everyone enjoys their day. You will be getting a survey likely to ask about your experience if you register for the event. So please give us your feedback.
I thank everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
Bye.